Well, this time President Trump is being hammered for likening the Democrats' impeachment obsession to a lynching. And as usual, a tweet started it all. So someday, if a Democrat becomes president and the Republicans win the House, even by a tiny margin, they can impeach the president without due process or fairness or any legal rights. All Republicans must remember what they are witnessing here, a lynching, but we will win. And the Democrats pounced. We start with Democrat House member Al Green. Whoopski, my bad, wrong Al Green.
And I rise today with a heavy heart and tears welling in my eyes. I rise. I rise because how dare the president compare lynching to impeachment?
I mean, they pounced.
The thousands of African Americans were slaughtered during the lynching epidemic in this country for no reason other than the color of their skin. The president should not compare a constitutionally mandated impeachment inquiry to such a dangerous and dark chapter of American history.
And Don Lemon pounced.
A lynching, comparing impeachment, which is an investigation and a trial by Congress provided for in our Constitution, to the brutal murders of almost 5,000 Americans, 3/4 of them black.
And of course, AOC.
Today, this morning, President Trump tweeted out that the Democrats are basically giving him a lynching, and I guess for the impeachment. You know, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, to not understand the history of our country, to not understand the scourge of not only slavery, but the fact that lynching happened well beyond slavery, well into the days of people in this body, you know, very well still being here. It's horrifying.
And then there's Representative James Clyburn.
Does using a word like that in a situation like this offend your sense of history?
Yes, it does. Very much so. I'm not just a politician up here. I'm a Southern politician. I'm a product of the South. I know the history of that word. That is a word that we ought to be very, very careful about using.
But when Bill Clinton was impeached, his defenders routinely referred to the process as a, wait for it, lynching.
What went on 24 years ago with the President of the United States. This day feels to me like we're taking a step down the road to becoming a political lynch mob. We're in so much hurry to get this done so it can be in the Saturday, Sunday news cycle and have our mint juleps at 5 o'clock. We are going to find a rope, find a tree, and ask a bunch of questions later.
And Congressman Meeks, who's still in the House.
Little did I expect that 10 months later I would have to cast a vote that was certain to become one of the most important in my life. I intend to vote against each of these articles of impeachment. My reasons are neither partisan, nor do they reflect my distaste and dissatisfaction with the president's behavior. Instead, my votes are a protest against an unfair process. The inequities in the impeachment process have been glaring. The Republicans started with Whitewater. They found nothing. Ken Starr then went to Travelgate. He found nothing. He looked at Foulgate. He never released documents. In fact, he made no effort to publicly admit to the lack of evidence against the president. Instead, he developed relationships with the Jones legal team and withheld this information from the Justice Department. Rather than disclosing his bias to the proper parties, Mr. Starr was now working and others to set up the president. What we are doing here is not a prosecution, it's a persecution. And indeed, it is a political lynching.
And then there's Harry Mitt Romney hasn't paid any taxes in 10 years. Read.
The lynch mob, though, Mr. President, now has a new leader. One who's willing to prejudge the facts and unbalance the law in the spirit of his mentor, Rudy Giuliani.
Representative Danny Davis, Democrat from Illinois.
I call this the nightmare before Christmas. And the American people find it difficult to believe that here we are on this day talking about impeaching a president who just came back from the Middle East almost with a peace accord. This is not about impeaching Bill Clinton. This is about trying to roll back the clock. This is about impeaching affirmative action, impeaching women's rights. This is about taking America back rather than moving it forward. I know how I'm going to vote. My people have told me I will not disregard the people who elected me. 70% of them have said to me, protect the president. Vote to keep this president in office. So I will not vote for this nightmare before Christmas. I will not vote for this lynching in the people's house. I will vote against these resolutions.
And how about this Democrat who once ran for president?
The trap that I talked about earlier, which is simply inaccurate, it is wrong, it is a verbal political lynching on the floor of the Senate. There's nothing radical in this article.
Which brings us to Joe Biden, the man who ran for president 3 times. He would never, ever use such a dastardly word as lynching. Would he?
Even if the president should be impeached, history is going to question whether or not this was just a partisan lynching or whether or not it was something that, in fact, met the standard, the very high bar that was set by the founders as to what constituted an impeachable offense.
Did they think we had forgotten? Did they think we had amnesia? That we weren't going to go back to the impeachment of Bill Clinton and remember they said the very same thing? Do you want more examples?
Yeah, that's enough of that. Give me a towel, will you?
Okay, I'm done. This is Larry Elder, and this has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. #double standards. I'll see you next time.